Today we're going to talk about Christian County and why it is one of the fastest growing counties in all of Missouri. Moving to southern Missouri is the best thing I've ever done for my family. Not only is it one of the fastest growing counties, but actually its population is going to double between, I believe, 2010 and 2030 was the time frame that was given, but actually double in population. And I'm starting to feel like a broken record in these videos because like I've mentioned in so many videos, the answer why is Christian County growing so fast? It's proximity to Springfield, like so many other things that I've pointed out. So truly, that's what's amazing about Christian County is no matter where you go in it, even the farthest reaches away from Springfield are really close. So of course there's smaller towns, but the main towns that people associate with Christian County are Nixa, Fremont Hills, Ozark, Highlandville, Spokane, Sparta, Clever, Billings. I'm probably missing some, but those are usually named as the main ones. So if you look at the two biggest metro areas, and they're both about 23,000. I think Nixa's probably more than that now, but around 23,000 for both Ozark and Nixa. And those are definitely your biggest metros that have obviously the biggest population, but also not only does it have some industry there, but obviously a lot more like retail and availability of different shops and just a much more thriving and booming economy in both of those towns. And both Ozark and Nixa usually get an A+ rating for schools. The overall rating for Christian County is A-. I mean, of course, you just have some of those smaller schools that have a much harder time competing with like the caliber of the bigger areas, but overall that's really high ranking for a county in a fairly rural county in southern Missouri. So that's pretty impressive. And you really get obviously a lot of the wealth from Springfield moving to these areas. So you really saw Springfield in terms of, especially your more affluent communities, really branch out to Republic, to Nixa, and to Ozark. And so many other places too. I mean, I'm like, how can I not say Rogersville, Marshfield? I mean, there's so many other places. And those are definitely metro areas of that greater Springfield area, and definitely known for a lot of that of affluence that's coming from Springfield nestling in those areas. And it makes sense because a lot of people, especially people that are making good money, young professionals, especially those that have families, don't necessarily want to raise their families or live in that more urban environment. So speaking specifically on Nixa, I feel like if you were going to kind of really summarize Nixa, I would really say that it is that home of the young professional. Whether that is someone who's single, moving into retirement, or whether it is a family, you definitely see a lot of, and I mean this is of course like classifying, but like young, conservative, professional families. There's definitely a lot of that in Nixa. And probably too, the high ratings with the schools, all of those things are going to feed into why it's so desirable. And some more pros about Nixa is that obviously because I think it's probably the biggest metro area. I think it does trump Ozark just a little bit in terms of size. It's obviously going to have then some of the best and the most diverse shopping, restaurants, not anything like you're going to find in terms of diversity like Springfield, but you're still going to find, quite a few good restaurants there, which means in general, there's just more fun things to do. And going back to the start of this video and my broken record thing, one of the main things that you really hear people talking about too is the fact that they are equal distance pretty much to all of the entertainment and all of the amenities of both Springfield and Branson. And I have to say, that is pretty amazing. It is definitely one reason why I personally love Christian County. And I'm going to save farther along talking about my absolutely favorite place. If you're one of my clients, forgive me for, being repetitive, but you've already heard this. I don't want to push too many people there because obviously I want it to stay as sweet and idyllic as it is, but I want to now talk about a negative of Nixa and why it's not my favorite. Is I do believe for me it's just kind of too much development. Now I know for some of you that you don't mind that, and I actually really respect that. Like, your shoes are probably super clean and your car's always clean and all of those things, but I am more country. It's like my shoes are dirty, my car is dirty, and I need that bit more of space. And I think that Nixa has developed a little bit more too, not just because of the proximity to Springfield, but because actually, like, in terms of topography, it's one of the flatter areas in Christian County. Christian County is pretty hilly. I mean, honestly, when you look at it, it is pretty hilly. And Nixa does have some like flat plain areas, and that allows more density of development. And so I think that is part of why Nixa is developing so fast. So I haven't revealed yet my favorite town yet in Christian County, but I will reveal my favorite restaurant when I start talking about Ozark in Christian County, and that is the seat of the county. I have to admit, I do fancy Ozark in general more than Nixa, and that is just personal preference. I mean, they're like 5 minutes apart. So honestly, like, if you lived in one, you could pretty much hang out in the other and it wouldn't matter. So what I like about Ozark is I like that it has the Finley River. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it just winds through the town and, some of the residential areas, and it's just really, really beautiful. Another thing that I like about Ozark is it's very low density for the most part. There's definitely, you are seeing more tight, packly tight suburbs, but I mean, nothing like you find in Republic. And for those of you locals who have got to see Republic balloon over time, you know that like some of that high density development is absolutely awful. And I recognize though that what are people going to do? Springfield is growing at such a fast pace. We do need some high density housing. And it's just probably me and the way that I was raised, but I would almost rather see like tall apartment buildings in smaller areas than like huge developments of homes that are like literally just like packed in together. So some of Republic, I feel like the landscape has been tarnished a little bit, and I definitely have heard it from some of the high-end homeowners that have these beautiful estates, and now that's their view. That's really hard. Like, if your view was once this gorgeous like valley and rolling hills and then the Ozark Mountains, and then now it just is like that cookie cutter, that is a bummer. And so you really don't see that in Ozark, and that is one reason I really do like Ozark a lot. And it does have, I would say, on average, a lot bigger parcels. You usually see homes with like 1 to 5 acres is really, really common, and you still even can find more land than that. And it's getting hard in those outlier areas around Springfield. I mean, at least the ones that have high-end developments. We're talking, still like Republic and then Ozark and Nixa. And even Rogersville too, which is over in Webster. You're definitely seeing more of the condensed stuff. And I really like it when people have some room, for sure. So my favorite restaurant is obviously the Mill and the Garrison in Ozark. And actually, we were too dirty to go to the Garrison, so let me tell you that story. We had, we'd been like weed whacking and mowing for a client, because we do help people out, and he had some health problems, and we just wanted to get his property looking good for the market. And so we were just muddy and dirty and really not ready to go to like one of the finest restaurants around. And my husband was like, I hear that the mill is like super laid back and it's supposed to be amazing. And I looked it up, and because we were driving back from Lampe is actually where we were driving back from. And I looked it up and I looked at the pictures and I just was like gasping. It is so beautiful. It is this giant mill, completely restored by Johnny Morris. So of course it's done right. And it's surrounded by, I don't know, I want to say like 11 acres of what they call Finley Farms. Beautiful. So they always have fresh produce, of course, seasonal. It's just so well done. And then winding right up against the mill, of course, because mills used, hydropower, but is Finley River. And I'm telling you, it is very, very special. Super laid back. They acted like so chill, like, come on in your muddy boots, like you just take a seat. And I really love that. I really love when high end is not pretentious and it's like just anyone could go in. I didn't think that the prices were outrageous. I mean, it's definitely an expensive dinner. It's something that we've only done, I've been there twice, but definitely go back again. And yeah, just such a just homey good vibe. So we then realized that below the restaurant there's a really high-end restaurant, like the next notch up, called the Garrison, and we couldn't go down there because we were too muddy. Actually, we couldn't go down there at all because you have to have like full on, I think they call it professional attire or something like that. I can't remember the way they worded it. Definitely a dress code, but I just can't wait till we go down there. It's supposed to be even better. And we're foodies, so that's something that we think about a lot. So yeah, that's just such a special place. I just, I personally am a Johnny Morris fan. Like, I know that he truly has created some hateful energy, and I don't really get it. Things that I've heard is he's taken up too much conservation land and now has some of it private where just him and his rich friends can go, and I'm like, so I don't know why that's supposed to make me so mad. I mean, I'm pretty sure the land that he got wasn't even public. It was just land was being conserved, and now he owns it and is probably super protecting it and taking care of it. And him and his buddies go, and even if they hunt a little bit, it's just so what? There's so many other things to get mad about. I like that everywhere you turn in southern Missouri, you see millions of dollars from Johnny Morrison, and I don't care if he's making money off of it. It just is wonderful to enjoy. So I'm not a hater. I love it, and I highly recommend the mill. Another cool thing they do is at the mill, they have, they call it the workshop, and it is where they have classes. And this coming up, my daughter and my husband are going to do a gluten-free baking class, and they are so excited, and they're gonna make all these different bread rolls, and there's gonna be all these different gluten-free bread appetizers to try, and just what a fun thing. Especially if you're like us and you live a very rural life at home where there's nothing around us to do or see, and then also combined with the hustle bustle of work where we don't always get to have those super special times with our kids. And then to have something like that, I think is really special. And back to topography, one reason why I think Ozark too isn't developing potentially in the same way that Nixa is probably just topography too. It's definitely a little bit more hilly, and it just doesn't have the same layout to have some of that more high density suburb development. And so it kind of, the way that the hills work too, it's kind of worked perfectly, where a lot of Ozark, you just see cute little, actually you see some beautiful high-end homes, but you'll see cute little farmhouses, but everyone's perched on this little mound is what it looks like. And some of it is it's pretty idyllic and picturesque, but it's still not my favorite. And now I'm going to tell you what my favorite is. By the way, you guys, if you like this information, go ahead and like and subscribe. help YouTube and all their robots work on getting this video out to more people. My all-time favorite town, it's barely a town, in Christian County is Highlandville. And the reason why I like Highlandville isn't really because of like the town. I mean, there's not really much of a town, but it's just the area is exactly what I like. Like, I love that it really hasn't been developed very much at all. And so some of those views of just this mixture of the rolling hills, you know, I always love like layers of mountains. That kind of depth of perception, it's so beautiful to me. And you get all of those rolling hills mixed with layers of mountains, and it's just so pleasing to the eye. And as I've mentioned like a million times, I'm more country, and so that for me is perfect. But I love like amazing restaurants like I just was talking about. So I love that Highlandville is pretty much equal distance. Maybe it's a little bit closer to Branson, something. Roughly though, 25 minutes either way to Branson, Springfield. And then you've got super close proximity to Ozark and Nixa. You're actually perfectly placed to go in any direction to the lake. So it's like if you want to do Barry County, which what I love about Barry County is I call it the Wild Wild West for the lake counties. You know, Shell Knob, there's no planning and zoning and all of that. And I actually think Shell Knob is gorgeous. I love that you can like pretty quickly get to either, you know, the Lake and Barry, Stone, and then Taney's just, of course, the next one on over. So I think that's so special about Highlandville. I have to also comment, and it might just be my own experience, but I've just met the best salt of the earth old farmers in Highlandville. One man who I hope to be a client in the future, like we've just kind of building a relationship, but he had this gorgeous piece of property and it had expired, and I called him about it, and he said, you know, everyone wanted to develop it, and I just don't want to see that happen to this area. And it would just break my heart. It's such a beautiful piece of ground and it's flat. And so around here, like all the developers wanted to do, maybe not high density, but definitely a, you know, smaller lot subdivision. And he's just like, you know, I don't think I want to see that here. And so you really have these like, I mean, if you're negative, if you're a developer listening to this, you're like those gatekeepers. But if you really like the preservation of that just idyllic farm, like southern Missouri farm area, then yeah, these guys are gatekeepers. They're pretty successfully keeping Highlandville like Highlandville. And there's definitely development. As I say that though, of course there's development. You know, actually tomorrow I'm gonna go show some clients a new build, new construction in Highlandville. So there's actually definitely construction going on. Just absolutely nothing compared to what you're seeing in the surrounding areas. Definitely nothing compared to what you're seeing in Nixa and Ozark. And because of who I am, and always of course thinking about like what would make my horses the happiest, I would choose Highlandville. And I even like the small towns. So Sparta is actually kind of like a bigger town than Highlandville, but in terms of maybe the area, I'm not sure, because Highlandville is just a spread out kind of area, but Sparta is super sweet, and there's actually some gorgeous farmland, especially if you go out more on like the small rural highways. I want to say is it 14, or maybe there's a highway that turns into 14. Those old highways, I believe Highway 14, are really beautiful out that way and just gorgeous farmland, and yet still you have all that proximity. So that's to the east, and then you've got like Clever and Billings to the west, and same thing. It's really nice because they're so close to like all of the hustle bustle, but they're such quaint, sweet areas. Everywhere in Christian County is notably low crime. And there's just this feeling of safety. I feel like I know I shouldn't say this on the internet, but like probably don't lock my car. I know, I should always lock my car, but I don't. You know, so yeah, it's just a really good feeling in all of those towns. And yeah, I think that Christian County is special for that. Now, in terms of healthcare, seriously, you guys, once again, I'm a broken record. I just always go to Springfield. Like, Springfield is such premium healthcare. If I was in Nixa and one of my children got hurt, I would just drive the 20 minutes or whatever to the Springfield. You know what I mean? I mean, unless it was some crazy thing, you know, where they needed instant care. But yeah, so that's what I would personally do. But what makes all of Christian County awesome in terms of having access to amazing healthcare is it's so close to Springfield. And so in my mind, that really wouldn't be an issue. And one of the last points I want to make of why Christian County, this isn't why it's growing, proximity to Springfield. But this is something that I absolutely love about that area, and it really shows kind of how it still has this true rural, like, freedom-loving charm. And that is for Christian County planning and zoning. So of course this wouldn't supersede like municipality law. But there is absolutely no regulations about animals. So you could have like an elephant in R1 zoning. I mean, it wouldn't be illegal, okay? But really, in so many places, you're starting to see that those kind of regulations creep in. And so you don't have that in Christian County. So even with R1, even with that kind of usually heavily restricted residential zoning, there is no rules regarding how many animals you can have and all of that. Now, saying that of course doesn't, you know, include anything within a city limits that has its own code, but also subdivisions with covenants and HOA rules. So just something important to know. But if you live outside of any kind of city, you know, limits and don't have an HOA, then chances are you could have an elephant or at least 10 chickens. So I think it's pretty obvious from this video why Christian County is growing at such a rapid rate. I have to admit, I just keep growing fonder and fonder of the area. I am absolutely head over heels in love with a property there. I would show it to you right now in this video, but I do have an out-of-state client who's interested in it. So I was gonna make a video about it and blast it out to you guys. I love this property, but I'm gonna be respectful and I'm gonna sit on it for a while for these folks. And if you're watching this video, you know who you are. You guys gotta hustle and get out here and get that property, because I joked when we looked at it, I was like, I want to buy this. Can you imagine if your realtor just swooped on you? I mean, that's like, oh my gosh, cardinal sin, right? So no, I'm not, and I'm gonna keep it a secret for a while. But yeah, there's just some absolutely amazing properties, and you still can get acreage in a lot of Christian County for something that's, you know, mostly affordable. So some of Christian County is getting pretty pricey, but you can still find affordable. And surprisingly in Ozark too, I've got a lot of clients who are like, oh, I'm priced out of Ozark. And then I show them some stuff and they're like, oh, this is amazing. So sometimes you just have to dig a little bit. So if you guys have any questions about anything or anywhere in Southern Missouri and our local real estate market, give me a call. You can text, email, Zoom, all of that stuff. All my information is always in the description. And yeah, I would say one of my attributes, like one of my superpowers, is the ability to do hours and hours of research. So I think that I can probably give you more specific research and information than a lot of realtors can or are willing to do. So that is one thing I'd like to toot my horn on. So yeah, if you need specifics, you should give me a call.